All right, this is what I like to call the lightning round. I'm gonna say something, and you just give me your thoughts on it. I know you have no shortage of opinion. So, all right, what's your opinion on female MMA?
Female MMA, you have a few women who are highly skilled, and I enjoy watching high skill. I enjoy watching elite level athletics, elite level combat. I do not enjoy watching two young ladies have a tough man competition and sit there and just punch each other in the face and have this brawl that we're very proud in MMA in general that we present something that is elite compared to the tough man competitions, compared to even boxing in some instances, and we really sort of we fly the flag of technique and skill, and and then we have women who sit there and just swing at each other's faces with no skill whatsoever. Plenty of heart, plenty of effort and willingness, but not much beyond that. Ronda Rousey, right, the face of women's MMA. I will watch Ronda Rousey fight anything, anytime, anywhere. And it's not just because she's hot. It's because her level of skill is as impressive as you'll see. Specifically, obviously, of judo. Now, there were times when men were at that low level of skill and technique. So am I willing to concede that eventually, they will have a high level? To a point. To a point. The great thing about MMA is that you don't have to be the biggest and strongest, to win matches. But to not give credit to the value of watching big, strong guys move fast, I think that's less than truthful, less than sincere. So, women's MMA. Do I think women should be allowed to fight MMA? Yes, women should be allowed to do whatever the hell they want. Is it entertaining for me? The majority of times, no. Will it be some years from now? Who knows? Maybe. Do they deserve a chance to do it? Absolutely. Do what you want. Me, myself, Ronda Rousey fights, I watch. Cyborg fights, I watch. Any other woman fights, I change the channel. I play Xbox until one of the men's fights.
Do you teach women?
Absolutely. I teach whoever shows up. Okay. We have probably a handful of women here. It's a rough environment. It's an environment that most men don't make it in, so I would only expect the proportion to be represented also, in the women that don't make it here. I don't sugarcoat anything, if I've had women cry during class, and I've had men cry during class, and my point being, I don't adjust anything for the woman's perspective. I don't adjust anything to sort of make them comfortable. If anything, my whole design and blueprint is to make everybody uncomfortable. So we definitely have women that train here, and the women that train here are sweethearts, but they have to be tough, because any other way to be is not going to make it here. Right? We're all not hugs and high fives here. So.
What's your opinion on New York MMA today, the scene today, compared to 5 years ago?
Well, we have amateur fights now in New York. And with the success of MMA in general, with now the ability for schools to have their fighters fight amateur bouts in New York, still not professional, but enough, it's sort of permeated enough into our culture where now, as an MMA school owner, we're in a very good position, because in New York, we're at the cusp. It's going to be made legal eventually. I know my boy Sambo Steve, I've in my mind, I've delegated that entire struggle to him, because he's doing such a good job with it. And admittedly, I don't keep up on it as much as I probably should. But it's an inevitability. And when it becomes legal in New York, I think it is going to be like the dam falling off of the river, and the explosion of MMA cards and opportunity for fighters is just going to go through the roof. So I'm very happy to be sitting here now with an MMA team. 5-6 years ago, we were the guys who, the human cockfighters. We were the guys who were just violent, angry, and I'm not sure that that's changed, but that was what we were only labeled as, But it was definitely, the training was still good, but the opportunities were a fraction of what they are today. My guys now, I have amateur guys that have like twice as many fights as I did, and in the same rules. And I'm trying to tell them, do you guys like even realize how lucky you are to have all of your fights actually happen? And like, they don't get it. But I start sounding like the old man after a while. Back in my day, like that old shit.
What's your opinion on like unsanctioned underground fights?
Unsanctioned underground fights. I've had a couple hundred street fights in my life, and I'm not even like exaggerating. I'm not like, just, it's not a phrase. I've had hundreds of fights. No, I literally have had over 200 fights. One day I like sort of sat down and did calculations and everything because I didn't want to sound like I was full of shit. But I fought a lot. I appreciate fighting. I appreciate fighting with MMA rules. But I also appreciate two guys standing in front of each other until, beating shit out of each other until one guy quits. I appreciate that for what it is. It's who we are. It's the nature of the human race, contrary to what, weak men and feminists will tell you. So these underground, unsanctioned fights, fighting is good. Fighting in a way that will maybe sabotage the legitimate MMA movement is bad. Fighting with no rules just because you're not good enough to fight in a fight with rules is fraudulent. Having underground, unsanctioned MMA cards and passing it off as some sort of, kumite, when it's actually, you're just not legitimate enough to get your paperwork together and actually hold a regular card, I see that for what it is. I wish MMA fights, let me say it this way, I wish regular MMA fights, UFC fights, were UFC 1 rules. The gentleman's rules we could agree on. Don't hit the guy, don't eye gouge him, don't fish hook, right? Don't, whatever they had as rules back then. I think that is fighting, but my tastes are probably a little bit more violent than the average person, and you probably can't, get a sport established with those rules. Everybody knows Pride's better. Everybody knows the Pride rules were better, and those fights were epic and legendary, and there's a reason for that. And I think the lack of rules had a lot to do with it. So the underground, unsanctioned fight, there's a lot of reasons why they're unsanctioned. I appreciate fighting in its rawest form, but those guys, they just can't get their paperwork together, or they'd be making money and holding regular cards just like every other promoter.
What's your opinion on boxing? Not just training it, like watching it, as a sport itself.
Well, there was a time where that was the sort of the best presentation of violence, of sportive violence, and combat in general is a very, very masculine sort of endeavor. It's we all as men long for an outlet, a catharsis for our masculinity, and watching, football, watching it could be a movie, friggin' Rambo on television, something that we could sort of, raise our fist to and scream. Some in another era would be a battle cry. Like, we find ways to do this. Well, there was a time where that was boxing, and boxing was the rawest presentation of that. That time has passed, so now boxing is going to live and die on the merits of its actual sport, of the skill and technique that it presents. And without a sort of foundation of viewers who are raised on boxing and have developed this sort of keen, insight into the technique of boxing, eventually, a couple of generations down the road, who's going to watch it? You know, you have everybody watching MMA these days. And guys will tell you what an armbar is, a triangle is. Guys who've never trained, you know, rear naked choke is. They know what all those different things that are. But when you start talking about, you know, high-level boxing techniques and asking them what those are, you know, they have no idea what the hell you're talking about. You know, so I think boxing, and this is like any sport, it is going to live or die on its sort of farm system of fans. And boxing's farm system is dwindling. You know, I love watching boxing, don't get me wrong, but I got to call it for what it is. You know, I'd rather watch MMA any day of the week.
What's your opinion on the Tiger Schulmann schools? I think you've had like fluctuating opinions, or you've had a strong opinion about them over the years.
Right. Well, I've had a very strong opinion on their model of business, and I'm a big believer in being proud in who you are and what you are, and watching Tiger Schulmann, who was probably the original dojo, watching them sort of develop from a karate school into an MMA school, and you know, I'm still the guy that, you know, I kind of haven't found my comfort level with people that run MMA teams that have never fought MMA, you know, and you know, I know not every NBA coach has been in the NBA, and I concede all of that, but maybe it's just me being selfish, maybe it's me being closed-minded and immature, who knows, but you know, he's never fought MMA, and this goes for anybody. If you've never fought MMA, I'm always going to have like a little asterisk next to your face in my mind, you know, like MMA coach, never fought MMA, you know. So having dealings with their students over the years at different tournaments and fights, and they could be such the biggest pains in the ass, you know. But you get to the point where there's so many of them, there's so many of us. You know, what is every Tiger Schulmann student a douchebag? No. You know, is every fighter that fights for them, you know, a douchebag? No. They got a lot of good people. They got a lot of good fighters. He's I'll give him credit where it's due. He's a smart dude, and I don't know which one's the Tiger. I know there's two of them. They're brothers. I've met both of them at fights, not like meet them, but you know, shake hands after one of my guys beat one of their guys, and I could appreciate the strategy that it's taken for them, to build the empire that they have. But I think it was fraudulent in nature. You know, you're a karate guy. You're not a jiu-jitsu guy. You're not even an MMA guy early on. You know, now everybody's part of MMA. So Tiger Schulmann, there was a time where I was very much pitted against them on a regular basis, competitively, and my sort of heart fire, you know, burned a lot brighter and hotter than it did now. You know, now they're just another team. Some of the guys are really good. Some of the guys aren't that good. Some of the guys think they're good and they're really not that good. But one of my guys just knocked out one of their guys a couple weeks ago. So when it comes to Jungle Jim and Tiger Schulmann, I'm pretty comfortable with where we're sitting right now.
What's your opinion of Lloyd Irvin and his team, and his two guys who were acquitted of that rape?
Well, I can't talk about Lloyd because I'm in litigation.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I can't talk about Lloyd. I will talk about, probably shouldn't, but I will anyway, about the two guys that got acquitted of raping their student. And I posted something on Facebook about this, and I'll repeat that here. They were acquitted of all legal charges against them. Not all of them. Nick Schultz still has a couple of, I think, misdemeanors pending, but the major charges, they were found not guilty of those charges. And everybody has a story about what happened. Maldonado has a story, Schultz has a story, the victim has a story, the police have a story, everybody has a story. Well, within all these stories, there are commonalities, right? There is a common story It's the extras that change from person to person. But there is a core story that everybody agrees on. Just taking that, just taking the part of the story of what transpired that night that everybody agrees on, for me is enough to, to call both of them two pieces of absolute shit that I would love nothing more than to be able to express to them how I feel like they need to make amends, right? And there should be some consequence for what they did to their teammate. You know, some people don't realize that. Not only was this young lady, you know, with them that night, but it was also their teammate. It was one of their people that they're training with day in and day out. I run, and everything we've spoken to up to this point supports that I run a very, very tight-knit group. You know, people say, oh, you know, it's like a family here. It's like a family here. Your school's not like a fucking family. All right, my school's not like a family. There is a group within my school that has become family. All right, but you walk in, I'm not treating you the same as the guy that I've known for 10 years. I mean, to me to tell you that is bullshit. But there's something to be said when you're with somebody training day in and day out, and the bonds that you develop with these people. You know, and speaking about Maldonado and Schultz, it's like this is their teammate. This is a woman. To do what they've done, leaving her on the floor in the parking garage, you know, when it's cold, after, you know, having sex with her, and it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You know, so them, I think they're cowardly little pieces of shit. I wouldn't let either one of them set foot in my school. And, you know, I would never put my hands on somebody because that's illegal, you know, but if you talk about, you know, poetic justice, you know, transpiring, I'm sure I could write a great story with how theirs would end, you know.
Where will Justin Garcia be in 20 years?
Probably not in the hospital. Probably not in the grave. Hopefully, at least. I don't know. I have goals that are very, very big in nature, and I'll continue like I've been doing to plug away at them day in and day out. I have 3 sons. They're incredible. I have an incredible wife. I homeschool my kids. My wife homeschools my kids with me, and you know, I enjoy the legacy that we're building. I enjoy the mindset and the energy that's going on in my school. I enjoy the network of friends and brothers that I have outside of my school. You know, I'm in a very, very good point in my life right now, and I acknowledge that. So, in 20 years from now, you know, what would I want? I'd want at least to maintain these brotherships, because I'm a big believer in, you know, I'm not always looking to make friends, you know, which is, I think, you know, kind of what I'm getting at. I don't walk around and try to be everybody's buddy. I don't want as many friends as I could have, and because you could use the metaphor of like a body of water, you know, having a lot of different puddles, you know, will never ever be more significant or better in value than having one deep body of water. And when you have a friendship with somebody, the longer it's cultivated, the longer it exists, the deeper it gets. And there are things that you could explore at the depths of a friendship, the depths of a relationship, through time, that you'll never be exposed to if everything that you're involved in is shallow. You know, so I'm not trying to make friends. I'm not even trying to keep friends. I'm trying to be who I am and explore my friendships and develop my friendships. Some people, it's funny, I could be a little bit of a hot topic, you know, when you go around the forums in the MMA world, the jiu-jitsu world. And for those of you that support what I've stood for and support the messages that I put out there, you know, I appreciate the support, you know. But those of you that are adamantly opposed to some of the things that I expressed and don't side with me on a lot of, you know, topics of significance, you can go fuck yourself. You know, and it's that simple. You know, I don't care about you being my friend. I'm good. I got a great school, a great family, great friends. You know, I'm good.